Good morning, crime community. I'm here to read out about Antebellum America. This is called The Best Company You Can Have. In a letter to his daughter, Isabella, Kentuckian John Price consulted the 10-year-old about the relationship between readers and books. Books, he told Isabella in 1853, are the best company you can have. They never tell tales upon you, and you always have them at command. Price commented, which captured an important truth about these women's engagement with books, spoke to the larger dimensions of reading. Because books never tell upon you, the exchange between readers and text could be a private or a public as individuals desired. And because readers could always have them at command, individuals could shape a text into their purposes, using them for private pleasures and public acts. Women could exercise agency in many ways, employed to act of a variety of interlinked objectives. Reading could be a vehicle for education, a source for identification with learned women, and a basis for an apprenticeship of the women's of letters. Equally notable, women could take them as manuals of instruction in forming their own opinion and making public opinion. A student at Sarah Pierce's Litchfield Female Academy, Mary Bacon, spoke of all these ends from books. She told her brother, "We learn the situations, manners, custom virtues, and vices of our town and distant countries. Together," she added, Bacon and her brother could use reading to press forward in the road to improvement. That is exactly the road women are asked to travel by Sarah Josepha Hale, herself one of Antebellum America's most influential makers of public opinion. She called women to the task of nation's improvement, beginning with the familiar disclaimer that wealth, scientific knowledge, and political power have none of these aids. Hale nonetheless authorized women to chart Americans' course. In reading books, and particularly in reading the books we considered most appropriate for our sex, she can encourage women always to bear in mind that the development of the human mind and the direction of public opinion are both committed to women. However, they struck the balance between the public and the private, between the book as instrumental and the book as pleasurable. These readers played a central role in the making of a text. Margaret Fuller provided a telling, if singular, example. Timothy Fuller, determined to make his eldest son the heir of all he knew, took responsibility for drilling Margaret in Latin and guiding her reading into classical literature. He welcomed her into his library, where she immersed herself in Shakespeare, Miguel de Cervantes, Moliere, Fielding, Tobias Smollett, and Scott. Reading Shakespeare on a Sunday led to an emotionally discharged conflict between father and daughter. Told by Timothy, "Shakespeare, that won't do. That's no book for Sunday. Go put it away and take another." The 8-year-old did and did not. Initially, she placed the volume on the shelf, albeit without selecting a substitute for Romeo and Juliet, the play she had been reading. Then she yielded to desire, retrieved the volume, and opened its pages again. Margaret managed to read nearly half the play before Timothy came the same question and received the same answer. Instead, she had obeyed him. She ordered his daughter directly to bed. Then she no longer had the text at hand, mattered little, if at all. Alone in the dark, I thought only of the scene placed by the poet before my eyes, where the free flow of life, sudden and disgraceful dialogue and forms, whether grotesque or fair, seemed in the broad luster of the imagination. Gave what I wanted. My fantasies swarmed like bees. As I contrived the rest of the story, what all would do and say, where go. Other readers might have the appropriate to text to a degree Fuller did on his occasion, but they read with the same eye of self-determined needs and desires. Among with the agency that Fuller respondents illustrates, they interrogate and intervene and revise to create meaning beyond those intended by either authors or publishers. These readers were poachers, as Michael de Cortio had labeled them. In the space between reader and text, they produced pluralities of meaning, day in and day out, month in and month out, year in and year out. They relied on the meaning of their fashion subjectivities and autonomous and communicative thinking women. That's the lesson for Mrs. Mary Kelley. Might start reading another book here eventually. I don't know. Let's just take a look at it for a moment here. It's called Percy Blythe Shelley, Poet and Revolutionary. There seems to be a problem with the modern, like 200 years ago, even today, they think Percy Blythe Shelley was a painted wig Perry Pellow, but he was a revolutionary. That's what it says here, the poet and the revolutionary. So let's just see what it says here. Humankind needed Shelley back then, and this book reminds us how much we need to know. He is an honest look at the truly revolutionary life by Benjamin Zephyriah. Fresh, clear, and compelling, this is the best compact account of Shelley's life currently available. Nicole Rowe, professor at University of St. Andrews. Compelling reminds us that Shelley's robust socio-political vision remains relevant and vital to our own times. Stephen A. Brenhead, professor at University of Nebraska. Percy Blythe Shelley, 1792 to 1822, is one of England's most beloved romantic poets, yet his poetry was an unapologetic politics at its core. The biography explores the foundation of Shelley's revolutionary politics, his anger at a system where the rich lived luxuriously at the expense of the poor and depressed, causing war, colonialism, and suffering. Does that sound like 2026? We're talking here 1788. An anti-monarchist and a forerunner of civil disobedience, his poetry, his most famous poet in the entire world, was considered blasphemous and seditious. I can think of some American poets that were harassed around 69 and the same reasons. And I was pirated by the radical press to reach new working class audiences. His revolutionary ideas were espoused by all those fighting for a more equal society, and his words inspired radical thinkers, including Chartists, Marx, and Gandhi. To really appreciate the works of Percy Shelley, you have to understand the political and cultural context of the time. This book takes you there. Humankind needed Shelley back then, and this book reminds us how much we need him now. It is honest, straightforward, revolutionary look at the truly revolutionary life. The world needs more Shelley, and the world needs this book. Fresh, clear, and compelling, this is the best compact account of Percy Blythe Shelley's revolutionary life currently available. Jacqueline Mulholland places Shelley's vividly in her own times and shows how and why his examination, vision, and new exciting art offer such inspiring examples to us now. Nicholas Rowe, University of St. Andrews. In this compelling and opening night study, Jacqueline Mulholland demonstrates how Percy Blythe Shelley, passionate humanitarianism, enlightens every aspect of the revolutionary agenda that informs all his writing, poetry, and prose alike. Thoroughly researching and engaging written Mulholland books reminds us anew that the great romantic, robust socio-political vision, a vision that remains as relevant and vital for his own volatile times as it was for his some 2 centuries ago, is not even more so. So like I just had a birthday last week on February 19th. I shared a birthday with the King of England's brother who got arrested. Guess what, folks? That was the first time a royal got arrested in 400 years. Happy birthday! Full of suggestive insights and highly readable, this is an absorbing study of Shelley's life, thought, and writing. Jacqueline Mulholland has written a valuable book. This is especially good on Shelley's revolutionary significance. Michael O'Neill, professor of English, Durham University. This book provides a fresh and impassioned account of the significance of Shelley's radical life and writings. He handles an array of historical and biographical contexts with clarity and skills, and takes on board the findings of recent scholarship, a fine and highly readable achievement. Michael Rosington, professor of Newcastle University. So we're going to get into this in the next day or two or a few weeks. Jacqueline Mulholland, poet and revolutionary. Tell that to the London College of England, would you? Send them a letter and say, Blicey Shelley was a revolutionary. Can you do that for me? I'd appreciate it. Have a nice day.